Southeast Radio's morning mix. Alan Corcoran.
Michael Nugent from Atheist Ireland joins me. Good morning to you, Michael. Symbols from church-run hospitals. A new government report has examined the relationship between the state and hospitals run by religious orders. It's told the hospitals that they should be conscious of the impact that decor can have on a patient and to remove crucifixes if a patient asks. Is this something that you broadly welcome?
They're public hospitals. They're there for everybody. If a religious patient went into a state-funded hospital and saw signs on the wall saying there is no God, people would immediately realise that that's inappropriate, and they wouldn't say, well, the patient should ask to take them down. They shouldn't be there in the first place. And it's the same with religious symbols. Hospitals are there to treat people who are ill. They're not there to proselytise any religious or non-religious belief.
Right. I'd like to get the listeners' reaction to this as well. The choice should be there. Is that what you're saying? If you would so like to have your religious symbols present when you're in a hospital, that should be your choice. So if you would like them, they should be there, or what?
Well, I think if you want to bring in religious symbols, or if you want to bring in non-religious symbols, or if you want to bring in anything that helps to comfort you or make you feel better, I think you should be entitled to do that. But it shouldn't be part of the official decor of a state-funded hospital. In the same way as anything that the state provides, if you go to a police station, there shouldn't be religious symbols there. If you go to a school, there shouldn't be religious symbols there. Now, there are in schools. But again, if you look at that the other way around, you see there's a blind spot because it's the status quo and people assume that it's okay. But if schools were actively teaching children that there's no God, people would immediately realise that's not appropriate. If, in order to become president, you have to swear that there's no God instead of having to swear that there is a God.
OK, let's look at the report then. The report also raises serious questions over whether the state should continue to fund faith-based hospital services if they refuse to provide abortions or prescribe contraceptives. What's your view on this?
Well, again, that's exactly appropriate. The people have voted that abortion should be available legally through the state-funded hospitals. And if an individual person doesn't want to participate in that service, I think that's their conscience. But they shouldn't be able to block it from happening in a state-funded hospital. They should make sure that somebody who is willing to carry out the procedure is able to do so.
Yeah, moving on to the report, I'm just reading from the report as I have it here in front of me. We're speaking to Michael Nugent from Atheist Ireland. So if you have a contrasting view and you'd like to express it, give us a call on 053 914 5222. The review group chaired by former Secretary-General of the European Commission, Catherine Day, was asked to examine the relationship between the state and church-run hospitals. There are currently 7 voluntary hospitals owned by faith-based organisations and a further 5 with some degree of religious order involvement in their governance arrangements. The 12 hospitals receive 1.34 billion in state funding and are responsible for operating 26% of publicly funded inpatient beds. The report found there was no difference in the quality of care provided by hospitals with religious ethos and those with none. Like we've seen it in our own Wexford General Hospital here, where the names of the saints have been taken off some of the wards. And look, that led to a very mixed reaction, I can tell you. There were people very supportive of it, and there were other listeners, many of whom might be tuning in this morning, went ballistic over this. So you're not going to be able to change it very quickly, are you?
Well, I think you can. I think Ireland has changed remarkably in the last few years alone in terms of the blasphemy law being removed, marriage equality for gay people, abortion legalised. I think the people have moved on and are no longer controlled by the Catholic Church in the way that we used to be. And I think that the issue now is for the state to catch up with that, which thankfully this report seems to be moving in that direction. If you take those wards which had saints' names on them, can you imagine if you're a religious person and you went into a state-funded hospital and your choice of wards were the Richard Dawkins ward or the Christopher Hitchens ward? You'd be saying, well, why are you putting those names on the ward? I'm here to be treated from my illness. I'm not here to be preached about atheism. And similarly, with religious views, the state is there for everybody, not just for religious people.
Yeah, a number of people who were interviewed for the report said they felt the religious ethos of an organisation was apparent in its decor through the presence of chapels, religious icons, logos and posters. But I think you have to accept, Michael, that there's a lot of people like this because, as one person said to me, everyone's an atheist until they're in their deathbed, and then a lot of people will start saying, where's God? You know?
Well, actually, there's research that shows that the people who are least anxious about dying are atheists, and the people that are most anxious about dying are religious people. So that's not the case. My wife died a few years ago, and as part of her illness, she had a heart attack. and she was brought into the emergency ward in one of the hospitals in Dublin. And within 15 minutes, there was a priest coming in offering her communion. Mm-hmm. Now, could you imagine if you're a religious person and you're in the emergency ward of a hospital and somebody comes in to tell you that there's no God? At a time that you're at your most vulnerable, to have somebody assuming that you have a set of beliefs that you don't have and preaching them to you while you are at your most vulnerable in a state-funded medical facility. It's just not appropriate. And the fact that a lot of people think that it is not a reason to continue it. The reason that we have concepts such as, human rights and freedom of conscience and freedom of religion and belief is precisely to protect individuals from the majority and to ensure that the majority can't infringe on people's fundamental conscience in the way that is happening at the moment.
Why is that fella allowed to talk about religious objects, says Frank? The nuns did a great job when they ran the hospitals. Everybody's entitled to their faith. It took a lot of money to take the saints' names off the wards in Wexford Hospital. Well, do you want to respond to Frank directly? I mean, I believe in freedom of choice. So if you are religious, I think you should be allowed to have your... I mean, I for one would have a massive statue of St. Anthony right beside me because that's my belief. But I can understand if people don't have that belief, then that they may not want to have these artefacts there. So I can understand where you're coming from, Michael.
Yeah, I completely agree that everybody has the right to freedom of religion and belief. Atheist Ireland works alongside religious groups such as the Evangelical Alliance of Ireland and the Ahmadi Muslim Community of Ireland, to ensure that religious minorities are protected in the state as well, particularly in regards to secular schools. So I completely support everybody's right to have whatever religious practice they want, but it's just the state should not be providing that. The churches should be providing it, and the individual people should be providing it.
How would you, Jim wants to know, how would you, Michael, feel if you shared a ward with someone who had a holy cross by their bedside? Would you ask them to remove it? I don't think you would you?
No, I wouldn't. I would completely support their right to have whatever paraphernalia that they feel makes them most comfortable and reflects their beliefs by their bedside. I just don't think the state should be hanging it on the wall where everybody is subject to it.
And what do you think about chaplains in hospitals? We've discussed this about chaplains in the armed services, haven't we? But what do you think about chaplains in hospitals?
Well, chaplains, again, reflect a particular religious ethos. I think there should be people available if people need comforting, if they need counselling, that they should be available. But they should be available on the basis that they're there for everybody. They shouldn't be there on the basis of promoting one particular religious belief or just promoting relief for people with one particular religious belief.
Right. Pat Hughes wants to know, I'm sure you've been asked this question every day of your life, maybe several times a day. How can you prove there isn't a God, says Pat?
Well, you can't prove there isn't a God. That's not the point. What you do is you look at the evidence and you say, what does the world look like? Does it look more like it would look if there was a God, or does it look more like it would if there wasn't a God? Now, if there was a God, you would expect, at a minimum, that he would be able to give everybody the same message. You would expect there not to be pain and suffering. You would expect there not to be tsunamis and earthquakes. You would expect a whole load of things to happen that aren't happening. If you look at science and you look at the way that science has showed how the world has come into being, how the universe evolved from the Big Bang, it seems infinitely more likely that there is no God and that people made up the concept of gods to explain things when they didn't understand science than that there actually is a God. But of course, I might be mistaken. I'm not claiming that I know for certain because we're only humans and we can't be certain about anything.
Why is it assumed every patient is Catholic here in Ireland? Those statues give me the creeps, says one Morning Mix listener. What on earth is the world coming to? If there are pictures of flowers, animals, etc., does that mean we don't believe in nature? For God's sake, air something reasonable, says John. They're just some of the comments come in. Do you want to make a comment on those yourself, Michael?
Well, again, I would suggest to those people that if they went into the hospital and they saw a sign of the God on the wall saying there is no God, and a big picture of Richard Dawkins beside it, they would be complaining before they reached the reception desk. It
costs somewhere between 25 and 35,000 to remove the names of the saints from the wards in Wexford General Hospital, reported at the time, says a Morning Mix listener. We're going to do a little poll now. Should religious symbols be removed from our hospitals? I'd say your life, Michael, is never dull, is it?
Well, this is Ireland. Nothing's ever dull in Ireland.
Good to talk to you, Michael. Michael Nugent, Atheist Ireland there. And we do plan, and I think Michael is up for it as well, to have a good, heartfelt discussion about is there a God or is there not a God on the airwaves of South East Radio.